Hey guys, Jane here again. I was in a bar the other night, and whenever I am in bars or I'm in new social settings, I always like to ask people where they're from. I think it's kind of a foundational question. New York has a ton of imports, a ton of people who either come to live in New York from all over the country, from all over the world. So it's always interesting to me to meet and ask people where they're from. And that's usually reciprocated by them asking me where I'm from. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm from New York City. They're like, no, where are you actually from? And I'm like, yeah, I was born and raised here. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. And their reaction usually goes something like, rainbows, unicorns, what is this mystical being in front of me? And I didn't know that being a born and raised New Yorker was perceived to be this rare thing, which kind of got me thinking about, what it really means to be from New York, the certain characteristics that make you a New Yorker, and I think that there are actually a lot of them. So I've put together a handful of things that are potentially, the stereotypical reputation that a New Yorker gets. I'm calling this the New Yorker tag, and this is what it means to be from New York. So, first thing I think about being a New Yorker or moving to New York that you will notice is the seriousness of pizza, Chinese food, and above all, Brooklyn bagels. Brooklyn bagels, the story that I have about that, I have a ton of friends, obviously friends who I grew up with here in New York, who went to school, college, wherever, across the country, and they would have to come home for whatever it is, grandma's birthday, or had to get the wisdom teeth out or something, and in the hours in which they had in New York to see their family go and do what they were going to do, getting Brooklyn bagels was on the list. And the best part about it is that wherever they were going back to, there was a very strategically organized list of people who got the Brooklyn bagels when they got to wherever they were going. So Brooklyn bagels, Chinese, I grew up on Chinese food. Chinese food is one of my favorite foods in the entire world, but I think that it's particularly special in New York. And pizza. I mean, I think that there is a blog that somebody's going around all of New York City trying to eat all of the $1 slice pizza. I think that a lot of it is because New Yorkers take pride in the fact that we have special water here. Apparently there's a high or a low amount of fluoride in New York City water, and people who visit here say that it tastes weird. I don't taste it, obviously, because I'm from here. But yeah, apparently that's supposed to be the reason why the Brooklyn bagels taste amazing. Also because they're just from New York and they're awesome. So our food, pizza, Chinese food, and bagels. Big part about being a New Yorker. So I went to college in DC, and a big part about DC and the school that I went to is that it brought in a lot of people from the Northeast. So whether it was people from New Jersey, people from New York, Connecticut, Long Island, Rhode Island, it was a bunch of different kind of Northeast people. And every once in a while, I would happen to meet someone who was from Boston. Now, Boston and New York have an age-old rivalry. It doesn't matter if you don't like sports, because I'm pretty sure that that's where it started. Obviously, Yankees, Red Sox is probably one of the biggest sports rivalries in history. I can't think of anything that's bigger, actually. I think that close behind is definitely the Patriots and any New York team. I think that I've gone to a Boston Bruins game versus the Rangers, and that was a big deal. But it doesn't matter if you're into sports or not. If you grew up here, you are just primed to despise Boston. And I don't really know why, I don't know where it came from, but I think that it's always if there's a kind of a matchup, particularly in high level sports competition, whether it's the World Series or the Super Bowl, and it's New York Boston, it could be New York Boston in a potato sack race, and the whole city is going to come out and shut it down. So I think that definitely, I know people who've broken up with significant others or refuse to date significant others because the person was from Boston or there was a sports related rivalry there. We take it dead serious here, and if you're from Boston, you can just stop watching right now. Just kidding. So staying in the vein of sports in New York, I think that has played a huge role, at least in my childhood, about what sports teams you were raised on. My dad is a huge basketball fan. He raised me a New York Knicks fan. Now we have the Nets, but before it was New York Knicks all day. Like, I remember the first sports game I think that I ever went to was I think it was a New York Knicks game. It was a New York Knicks game. My dad had gotten me a Patrick Ewing jersey. It was my first jersey that I'd ever gotten. I was so excited. I was with my dad and we were going to the basketball game. And I look over when we're at Madison Square Garden and I see a Heat fan sitting in the row next to us. And I look over at him and I was like, who raised you? Like, what are you doing? And I think I was about 8 at the time too, but it's so ingrained in your head. It's just New York City sports, New York sports. They are so culturally important here. Even if you're not super into the sport itself. I mean, I think that the New York Yankees logo, I think it's on here. You know, this is the old one, but you know, the new one with just the New York on it, like that has completely become just a symbol of New York in itself, like sports aside. So that very much shows you kind of how important and how elevated New York sports are here. Another thing about being a New Yorker that I noticed only really when I left and I went to DC for college was the speed in which the city moves. And not just the fact that like, oh, we're the city that never sleeps, you know, we're a hustle city, like people are moving quickly, it's 24 hours a day, you can get anything that you want at any time. But we literally just physically as people move faster. When I was a kid, I think that my parents instilled that in me, like we do not wander. We are not mosiers as New Yorkers. We are at point A, we need to get to point B, and we are going to do that in the shortest amount of time. Whether it is like bombing out that subway or just like shimmying our way down Fifth Avenue, like we're gonna do it as fast as possible. If I get caught behind just a sweet, unassuming little family from the Midwest who are just trying to get a picture of Times Square, I might lose it. And I feel bad because I think that's what makes us come off as aggressive New Yorkers, but I have places to be. I've gotta get somewhere. I don't need to be stuck behind your family. Like, it literally drives me absolutely insane. The subway too. Perfect example. If you are standing at the bottom of the escalator with 100 people behind you, I might literally just push you out of the way. Like, it's a safety hazard too. So here's my solution for this. New York literally needs to have a lane for the tourists and a lane for the New Yorkers. Because I want that family from the Midwest to get their picture of Times Square. I genuinely do. We are a tourist-supported city, but I don't need to be around for it. I have places to go. The next thing that New Yorkers get a lot, and it drives us all insane, is when you are meeting someone new or you're in a bar and you ask where they're from and they say New York. I'm like, great, me too. Where are you from in New York? And they say New Jersey. Now, either you're gonna get just this internal scream or you're gonna get one of these. Ma'am. When you say that you are from New York when you were actually from Jersey, a unicorn super rainbow dies somewhere. I don't know why people do it, because every New Yorker who's ever been from here or grew up here will ask you where in New York. Like, it just is a thing. I think that the relationship between New York and Dirty Jers has not been a very good one. I don't really know why. I don't hate on Jersey. Jersey's fine. The thing that I have a problem with is people who are from Jersey and say that they're from New York or Connecticut. I had one person I'd met in college. I was like, oh, where are you from? They're like, oh, I'm from the New York area. And I'm like, oh, cool, whereabouts? Greenwich. What? That's a completely different state. It's not even New York. Like, no. I think it's because I have such pride in where I'm from that I don't understand why other people don't have pride about where they're from. So stop trying to hop on the New York bandwagon and just be happy about where you're from. The next thing about, I think, growing up in New York is jaywalking. I was in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. I was out there visiting a friend. And because Los Angeles is such a driving focused city, when you go out at night and you're drinking, you obviously can't drive. Now this was before Uber, which ages me considerably, but we decided to taxi to one place and then kind of walk around to the surrounding bars. Now I'm going across the street, you know, we're going to the next bar. I look around, there's nobody there, there's not a person, there's not a car, so I'm gonna cross the street. It's like blinking, it's giving you that like hand high five, like don't walk situation. And I'm like, I can make it, it's fine, there's no one here. I cross the street, turn around, my friends are freaking out. They're like, what are you doing? Why did you do that? What is going on? And I was like, what? And they're like, you can't do that here. And I was like, there's no one here. Like, what, you think I'm gonna stand there and wait? They're like, yes. So I was so taken aback by this. In New York City, if you jaywalk, I've jaywalked across the street with a cop, like with a police officer. They're busy people, they don't have time to wait, and neither do I. People will probably look at you strangely if you like linger and like don't try and cross the street. Like they'll think that there's something wrong with you. So jaywalking, definitely a big thing in New York. If you get a ticket for jaywalking in New York City, the universe just kind of hated you that day, but it is not a big deal. Jaywalking, definitely a big part. So instead of telling you the last thing on the list, I'll just show you. Black, 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 black. We wear black all the time. Maybe gray, but pretty much black. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. In the comments, if you are from New York City or have moved here or live here, let me know any of the stuff that I forgot in this video because I might make a part 2 with other stuff. So quirks, characteristics that make you a true New Yorker, leave them down below. If you never, ever, ever want to miss one single video I make in my entire life, hit the subscribe button. I have a ton of awesome videos coming your way. I'm Jane, and I will see you guys on the flip side.